Hi, I'm Natalie Rhodes, and this is Into Math's 5th grade, Module 11, Lesson 6. I'm going to start off by going over the I Can objective. It says, I can solve problems involving the division of fractions in whole numbers. The learning objective is to solve problems involving the division of fractions and whole numbers. And the prior learning is that students multiplied fractions by whole numbers using visual models and equations. Students solved word problems involving multiplication of a fraction by a whole number. All right, so moving into Lesson 6 on page 287, we have a step it out word problem that says Rowan and Sim are building a terrarium. The first layer is made of sand. They can use a scoop to add sand to make the first layer. So Rowan has a 1/3 cup scoop and Sim has a 1/4 cup scoop. So for A, write and solve an equation to model the number of scoops needed to fill the first layer if only Rowan's scoop is used. How many scoops are needed? So we need something from the picture showing that the total amount of sand was equal to that 3 cups. So we need to know, are we splitting up Rowan's 1/3 cup, or are we splitting up the 3 cups of sand by scoops? We're splitting up that 3 cups of sand. So that needs to be our first number in our division problem. So we're taking the third, and then Rowan's scoop was by 1/3. So now we're dividing it by 1/3. And it says to write and solve. So we do need to solve this. Remember, if we're not using a visual model, we want to use that flip and multiply method. So if I flip 1/3 over, I would have 3/1 times, and then flip that 1/3 over to be 3/1. So 3 times 3 is going to be 9, and then over 1. So it would be 9, and then how many scoops are needed? So we would just say 9 scoops. All right, so for then B, it says write and solve an equation to model the number of scoops needed to fill the first layer if only Sim's scoop is used. How many scoops are needed? So the exact same thing, but now we're using Sim, and his cup, or his scoop, was 1/4 of a cup. So we're doing the exact same thing, we're just replacing the 1/3 with the 1/4 to see how the problem and the answer, the quotient, would change. So again, start with those 3 cups of sand, and then divide it by the 1/4 cup scoop. And again, if we're not using visual models, we need to flip that second number and multiply. So I have the 3/1. Flip the second number over to be 4/1. And then multiply. Multiply across the top, so 3 times 4 is 12. 1 times 1 is 1. So that would equal 12 wholes. And in this case, it would be 12 scoops. And it makes sense that there's more scoops for a smaller amount of the scoop, right? If it's 1/4, 1/4 is less than 1/3. So it makes sense that there would be more scoops being needed if the scoop is holding less. So it does make sense. It's reasonable. C, if Rowan's scoop and Sim's scoop are used to add sand in whole number cup amounts, what are possible numbers of scoops that each would add? So if Rowan is going to use his cup to add a whole number cup, there's only 2 options. Because Sim is also in this. He can add 1 cup or he can add 2 cups. But if he adds 3 cups, then Sim's not adding any, right? So he can add 1 cup. How many 1/3 cups are going to be used to get to 1 whole cup? How many 1/3 pieces are in 1? 3, right? So I could have 3 of 1/3 to equal 1 cup. So if Rowan's only getting 1 cup, how much does Sim have left? Sim has 2 cups to cover. So how many 1/4 pieces are in 2 holes? Well, I know there's 4 in one and 4 in the other, so that means there would be 8 total scoops. So then we would say 8 of the 1/3. Of the 1/4. So that's one option. What happens if Rowan does 2 of the cups, which would leave Sim with 1 of the cups? That's another option. So if we're going back to Rowan with the 1/3 cup, how many scoops would he need? He would need 3 on one cup and 3 on the other cup, which would mean 6. So we could have 6 of the 1/3, and that would leave Sim with only 1 cup to cover. And if he only has 1 cup, 4 pieces, he would only need 4 scoops. So that would be 4 of the 1/4. So those are the 2 options if they're trying to fill and share the job. And they're going to equal, how do they word it? Whole number cups. If they're only going to whole number cups, those are the 2 ways to break it down. All right, and then for D, use equations, visual models, or words to justify your answers in part C. I just decided to use words. So I just said, Rowan gets 1 cup, and if Rowan gets 1 cup, then Sim gets 2 cups. Or for the second one, if Rowan gets 2 cups, then Sim would get 1 cup. Those are the only ways to share it since we only have 3 cups that we're working with. All right, let's go ahead and go on to the next page. We have Step It Out, number 2, says the next layer in the terrarium is made using all of the pebbles in Rowan's bag. If he uses 5 scoops, about how many kilograms of pebbles does the scoop hold? So if you look over to the right, we have a picture of a bag of pebbles and it says 1/4 kilograms. And he uses 5 scoops to empty that bag. So how big is that scoop? How much weight of the pebbles is it holding? And we are doing weight because it is kilograms. So for A, write a division equation to model the situation. Be very careful. What are you separating? Are you separating out your 5 scoops? Or are you separating out your 1/4 kilograms? Remember, whatever number you're separating, that's your first number, your dividend. Okay, B, use a visual model. Explain what you did in pictures. And then for C, what's the quotient, the answer that you found, mean in the context of the story? All right, go ahead and solve these 3 problems and then we'll come back together and solve them together. Go ahead and hit pause here. All right, let's go ahead and work these through together. So for this, I am actually separating out my bag, right? I'm taking parts of the pebbles in the bag. I'm not separating out the scoops. I'm taking the 1/4 kilogram and I'm separating them by 5 scoops. So I am going to have that 1/4 be first. That's my dividend. And I'm dividing them up by the 5 scoops. Using a visual model, I'll take up as much space as I can here. I know that I need to break it up into fourths first. So if I cut this in half and then cut this in half, that'll make my fourths. And then going the other way, I need to break up my fourths into 5 different sections. So if I have 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5. And again, we're just looking for that 1 section. So what does your quotient, my answer of 1 out of how many? Well, if I had 4 by 5, 4 times 5 is 20. So I have 1 of the 20. So 120, what? What does that mean in the context of our story? What did we just find? The 120 was how much each scoop held. So what were we looking for again? We were looking for how many kilograms of pebbles. So it's 1/20th kilograms per scoop. All right, that is it for this lesson. Go ahead and finish up the rest of your problems, and I'll see you back here for Module 12.